Golgi. Today I'm going to show you all how I do a neutral drag makeup look. I'm not using any crazy colors or anything, this is just the base of what I do every time that I paint. And a fair warning, I put a lot of really small details into my face, and I will be explaining them pretty thoroughly here, so just get prepared for like a lot of talking. So anyway, let's just get to the video. So the first thing I start out with are my brows. I'm going to take a NYX brow pencil in medium brown and rough out the shape that I want. I don't worry about making them perfect, I'm going to be cleaning it up with foundation in just a second. Then I'm just going to fill them in. I like to leave the center part of my face empty because next I'm going to blend them out with a brush to get more of an ombre effect. At this point, I'm just making sure that they're symmetrical. A really good trick for checking symmetry, by the way, is to take a straight-on selfie and then mirror it back and forth. Any imperfections are going to stand out immediately. I know it's definitely not a flattering angle, but it's also a great ego check if you ever need one. Now I'm going to clean up the edges with my foundation. I use Kryolan TV paint stick in 070 under my brow and 4W on top. I like to use lip brushes for all my foundation work. They're the perfect size for getting detail without making a bunch of streaks. And I'm just going to blend those creams out a little with a small sponge. That's going to make a smoother transition into the rest of the foundation later on. I'm also going to take a little more paint stick in the shade 00 and blend that out right between the brows. And then I just set everything with that Nye Neutral Set. I'm going to come back to these a little later, but now we're going to move on to the eyes. I really don't know what I was thinking with these. I did my eyes in a little bit different of a process than I usually do, so I struggled a bit.
There's people that are dying.
But everything ended up coming together in the end anyway, so. The first thing I did was draw on a new crease. I'm going to use the same pencil I used for my brows and start this new crease right above where my natural one sits, in the middle of my eye. I'm going to draw a dark line following the curvature of my eye socket and just onto the bridge of my nose. Then I'm going to blend this out with a crease defining brush. Now I'd actually recommend using a lip pencil for this. Those seem to have a much creamier texture and blend out a bit easier than the brow ones do. I'm just using this one because it's the only brown pencil I have that doesn't blend out into red or purple or something. Now I'm taking that same brush with the shade Cypress Umber from the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette and just pressing that color into the edge of the new crease. Then I'm just going to blend that out with a crease brush. I'm going to lightly start dragging some of that color along the rest of the crease too. Next, I'm going to dip very lightly into Bulletproof by Sugarpill and just take that along the very edge of the crease to add a little bit more dimension. Be careful here, a little goes a really long way with this stuff. And now I'm going to cut my crease with TV paint stick in 070. I use the same lip brush as earlier, and I'm just painting right up to the original line I drew with the brow pencil. Make sure you get these lines as clean as you possibly can, and then set it with Ben Nye Super White powder. You can use eyeshadow too, as long as the powder has some pigment to it, you'll be good. You just want this to be really opaque. Here I'm taking a postcard and I'm lining it up from the corner of my eye to the tip of my eyebrow, and then I'm just going to swipe on some of the Cypress Umber and Bulletproof that I used earlier. This just creates a really sharp edge to the shadow and gives you a bit of a guideline for where to put the eyeliner on later. I'd actually never tried this before filming it, but I saw Aquaria do it in some video, and honestly, if you're not trying to be her, you're just not trying your best. Now it's time for liner. I use Inglot black gel liner on an angled brush for this. I like to extend the inner corner a bit, so that's where I'm going to start here. I try to imagine a line running from the inner corner of my eye to the tip of my nose as my guideline, and I probably extend the line about 1/4 of an inch from my actual eye. Then I follow the natural crease and basically just fill my entire eyelid in with black. Once you get to the middle of the crease, continue that line straight out until you hit the line that you made with the postcard, and that's your wing. Be really careful with this stuff is so dark it's borderline dangerous. It's just like glitter in the sense of if you're not paying total attention to it, it'll end up literally everywhere. All over your lashes, your face, your hands, your clothes, your neighbor's dog somehow, like, here's an example. I cover my entire eyelid in black. I find that it's a lot less likely to. See, this is why you do your eyes first, because you f up because you're stupid. And then you can just swipe it away and pretend like it never happened. Fuck, keep doing that. I need to wash my hands. I hate my life. I like to set mine with more of that Bulletproof eyeshadow too. just to make sure she doesn't go anywhere. Like, I want her to go to her room and think about what she's done. Next I do my lips. I know it's going to seem a little weird to do lips before foundation, but this style of big, overdrawn, contoured lips can get really messy, so it's a lot easier to do them now and then just clean it up with foundation later on. I'm using Jeffree Starred Liquid Lipstick in Celebrity Skin and overdrawing them with a lip brush. I also try to bring the upper lip outward from the corner of my mouth just a little. I think having a slightly wider lip on top creates a really nice pouty look. Just think Farrah Abraham circa 2015. Once that's dried down, I'm going to start contouring them and try to hide my natural lip line as much as I possibly can. In my NYX highlight and contour palette, I'm starting with the shade Tan to darken up all the edges of what I just painted on. You want these shadows to be more concentrated around the corners and bottom of your mouth more than anywhere else, so I'm also going to deepen those parts a little with the shade Sculpt too. I'm very lightly dusting some of the color across my Cupid's bow as well. I have a pretty prominent lip line, so placing a little shadow there can help cancel out some of those natural highlights. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of the Cypress Umber from the Modern Renaissance palette I used earlier. If you kind of look like you just got sucker punched, you know you did it right.
Look who's got iMovie!
Now I'm cleaning it up with foundation. I'm using TV Paint Stick in 4W. I'd recommend blending this out with a sponge a little before you set it with powder, but I just completely forgot to do that. Before I move on to foundation, I'm doing a little color correction over my beard area with this coral color from a knockoff Flash palette. Then I'm just going to set this and the lips with Nye Neutral Set. And now it's finally time for foundation. First I'm going to swipe on my base color, which is 4W, and blend it out with the Beauty Blender, making sure to get the ears and neck as well. Once that's blended out nicely, I'm swiping on my first pass of highlight, which is 00. I've got a really fat head, so I like to keep those highlights on the very center of my face to narrow out my features. I don't really take it out any further than my eyes. If you're someone with a more masculine face, it might benefit you to carry the highlight out a little bit further. That'll help you round out a square face. These mini sponges come in real handy for getting into those tight spots, like between the brows and under the eyes. You'll see me switch back and forth between these quite a bit. Now I'm going to do my first pass of contour. I use the shade 7W. There's nothing too fancy whenever it comes to this, I just take my time to make sure this is really blended out. I also pass on a jaw contour. Like I said, my head's basically a bowling ball and I just wasn't lucky enough to be blessed with a jawline. I'm going to take that 00 again and add a little bit to where my jaw should be, and blend that out for a nice soft line. This will give the cheek a little bit more dimension. Now I'm going to reinforce those contours just a little bit with the shade NG1, just on the very outside of my face. Next, I'm going to move on to my nose contour. I start by taking my paint stick in 070 and making a dot on the very tip of my nose. Then, I paint a circle between my brows and continue a thin line all the way down my nose bridge. I gently blend away starting from between my brows and work my way down my nose. You're not really blending this out as much as you're just softening the line. Then I'm taking 7W and making a really short line right under the tip of my nose. I'm carefully drawing two lines connecting that line to my new creases. I go pretty light-handed with this. I actually wipe most of the product off on the back of my hand or something because I want those lines to blend out into almost nothing. This nose contour is much more about the highlighting than it is about the actual contouring. Once those are blended out, I'm reinforcing the white on the tip of my nose and blending that out. Then I'm going back to the 7W and darkening up the contour just on the tip. Then to finish it off, I add a tiny little dot of white onto the tip of my nose and just barely blend that out with a sponge. After that, I also like to go in and reinforce all of the rest of my highlights with 070. Make sure it's really well blended and then set everything with Nye Neutral Set. For some reason I don't actually have any footage of myself powdering, but you can imagine what it looks like. Now I'm going to do some powder contour, just to deepen some of the color that was lost from the setting powder. I'm going to use the NYX Highlight and Contour Pro palette, and I like to use the shades Tan and Sculpt. I know the color might look crazy dark to some of you, but the darkest parts are going to end up under a lace front anyway, And for me, contouring dark like this is really important whenever it comes to disguising a lace hairline. For the nose, I'm taking a flat eyeshadow brush and using the shade Tan and just pressing the color under the tip of my nose. This sort of creates an upturn look and makes the tip look really sharp and pointed. Then I'm taking a crease brush and pulling that color upward along the sides of my nose. I'm just going to take a big old powder brush and buff everything together after that. Next, I'm setting my baking powder. I like to use Ben Nye Super White on my cheeks, chin, forehead, and nose, and then I just use Neutral Set on my jaw. I don't want that standing out as much as everything else. While those are baking, I'm going to finish up my brows. For these, I use NYX Tame and Frame Brow Pomade in the shade Espresso, and a small flat paintbrush that I got from the craft section of Walmart. I know it sounds tacky, but honestly it's the best kind of brush you can use for this. I start by swirling the brush around in the pomade to pick up a bunch of the product, and then pinch the bristles between my fingers to flatten the brush back out. I'll keep pinching it like this every couple of strokes to get the sharpest lines I possibly can. I paint the individual hairs on by dragging the brush out with a really light touch while simultaneously kind of nodding my head. If somebody saw me doing this, they'd probably think I'm wacko jacko, but if it works, it works. It also really helps to steady your elbow on a table or something. At first I'll paint the hairs on about 1/4 of an inch further out from where I want the brow to actually start. Then, once I filled the entire brow in, I'll come back to the beginning and bring the hairs in the rest of the way. That gives me a bit of a safety net in case the product is acting up for some reason that day. If you make a mistake, the last place you want it to be is in the middle of your face. Also keep in mind the direction the eyebrow hairs naturally grow. You want the hairs at the start of the brow going almost straight up, and as you work your way through, you're going to angle them more and more outwards until they meet basically at a point. This is the part I usually take the most time at. It takes a lot of practice to get your brows this detailed. I've been doing them for like 8 months now, and I still have off days, so don't be discouraged if they don't turn out amazing the first time you try. Once I've got those the way that I want them, I'm going to finish up my eyes. I'm taking a NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk and lining my waterline. It's kind of hard to see what I'm doing here because I had to get so close to the mirror, but I'm basically just taking a tiny pencil brush and Jeffree Star liquid lipstick in Drug Lord and painting a line from the inner corner to about the center of my lower lash line. Now I'm going to take some of that Anastasia Cypress Umber and bring that underneath my lash line just to tie it into the top. For my lashes, I use a custom blend of 301s and some 61s from Wigs and Grace. I just chop them apart and glue them back together in a different order to make a more unique look.
Ladies?
Then on bottom I use some of these Ardell spiky 386s. I chop them up to make individual lashes. Lately I've been using Kiss Lash Glue to put all this stuff on. It has a brush applicator, so it's a bit cleaner to use than Duo Lash or Weave Bond or something. It's also pretty mandatory that you stab yourself in the eye at least once during this process. Also, it's an incredibly good idea to trim the lashes once they're already on your face. Get those scissors away from your face. And around this point is whenever I got a text from a friend saying that they were no longer attracted to me, so that's something. Anyway, I'm just going to finish putting on my top lashes, and then once those are done, I'm going to start putting on the bottom ones. But then I realized that I forgot to put mascara on, so we're going to go ahead and do that actually. You don't need a fancy mascara. As long as it's black, you're going to be fine. You're just trying to blend your natural lashes into the fake ones. Alright, now I can get back to doing the bottom lashes. I just glue those on one by one with a pair of tweezers. Make sure to get those really close to the bottom lash line. So I usually do about 3 per eye. Sometimes I do 4 if I'm feeling fancy, but today I want to be natural, so we're going to go for 3. Then I like to add some crystals to the eye for a little bit of sparkle. I like to use this kind. They make me feel really bougie, which I like, but I'm not gonna lie, I got them on sale. Now that my eyes are done, I'm gonna finish up the lips. The first thing I do is brush on some paint stick in 070 where I want the fullest part of my lips to be. Then I just blend that out with my finger. I'm basically just painting white in the places that light would naturally reflect off of lips these size. Another way to help sell the illusion of these big overdrawn lips is to paint on a new cupid's bow. I'm taking the shade Tan from the NYX contour palette and making a small dot right above my new lip. Then I'm outlining the top of my new lip in 070 and making these short vertical lines up my philtrum, which are the ridges on your upper lip. I like to outline the corners of my bottom lips too while I'm at it, and then I take an eyeshadow brush and very lightly blend all those lines into the rest of my face. Make sure you set them with powder so they don't move anymore. I decided I wanted a little bit more highlight on the tip of my nose and on my lips, so I'm just dotting some of that on with the 070. I'm gonna blend it out just a little bit more and then set it with powder. To finish off the lips, I'm dabbing a little bit of lip gloss right in the center to add some shine. I like to use Maybelline Hot Lacquer and Tease. This does have a little bit of pigment to it, so I only put it in the places that I put the white. I like to add some freckles to my face. I don't know why, they just always make me happy. I use a small pencil brush from an art store and e.l.f. brow creams in light brown and espresso for this. I scoop up a little bit of the cream onto the back of my hand and just go to town. Try to keep the freckles concentrated on the high points of your face, that's where they'd naturally occur. I go kinda light-handed on my upper lip and chin. I've gotten carried away before and sometimes it can kinda end up looking like facial hair. I mostly just try to keep it across my nose and under my eyes. The final steps are just blush and highlight. For blush, I'm using a mix of Sugarpill's Dolly Pop and Suburbia for a peachy pink color. For some reason it turned out really pink on camera, but in person it was a lot more subtle than it looks here. I like to put some on the tip of my nose too, just to warm up the contour a little bit. And last but not least, highlight. I'm using the sleek highlight palette in Solstice for the cheekbones and right above the brows. And then I go in with Vermeer from the Modern Renaissance palette for the tip of my nose and right between my eyes. I honestly don't really know why I do it between the eyes. Nikki Tutorial said to do that, and whenever she tells you to do something, you just don't ask why. And congratulations, you're officially a woman! Now you're ready to trap yourself a man, send some wigs into orbit, I don't know, grocery shop, water some crops, do some yard work. You know, this is just a very versatile look. You can do just about anything you want with this. If you learned something from this video or you want to try some of these techniques out, please let me know in the comments or tag me on Instagram. I would love to see it. I'd also love a free shout out, but that's besides the point. Thank you for watching. Bye bye! I put eyebrows on myself at 4 a.m. to do this. What has my life come to?